Looking on your live stream.
Oh yeah, no, start video transmission. Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
transmission started. Did the transmission start?
Yes, transmission
Let's
started. I
see.
need to sign in for the chat.
Castle stream. No, that was the last one.
Uh,
This is why I have an intro screen Calder. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. That's we're skipping the intro screen. Otherwise, I can't hear you. So.
Okay. Right. Oh, wait. Can I just?
Hey, hello.
Like? Oh, yeah.
I need to share the stream now, also on Discord.
All right. Hello. I want to get the chat. Let's see. Pop out. There we go.
Oh, maybe. You know what? We have a community manager right now.
We do, yeah.
Live on stream now.
Hello from Kentucky, USA. Yeah, we started a bit later today, so we should be more like US time zone friendly this time. Because it should be around. What time is it now for you, Calder? 4 p.m.
10 minutes before.
So it should be maybe 9 a.m. Kentucky. I don't know how much the difference is with the East Coast. Actually, I don't even know where Kentucky is, to be honest. Like, I know it's over on the eastern side of the US, I guess. But my US topography is not that great.
Yeah, I was just checking. East Coast is 6 hours back, I think. But it
These
also
are
goes
6
north,
hours back
south.
from US. Hey.
All right. Let's see if Raquel saw the message. I want her to post it, and I need to write something for.
All right. I'll just start with welcome to the Wooting live stream. Today it's me and Calder because today's a special day. Well, not necessarily today, but this week because the ADC deliveries started this week. And the first keyboard started to ship out this Monday. And that means that especially people from that, or where the keyboards were shipped from the EU fulfillment centers, a lot of them have received them already, which is really cool. If you're in the US, don't worry. Fulfillment starts, whatever the hub says. I don't want to say the wrong date because otherwise I get quoted later. I think it's like next week, but I whatever the hub says. Hey, typing on my ADC Zinc Alloy Black now. That's really, really cool. Calder Live, prepare for leaks. What are we going to leak? The ADC just delivered, so there's not that much to leak anymore, Calder.
Yeah, well, I mean.
All right, 10 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, that's good.
Just throw this on Twitter and then it's also complete. There we go.
I can read through. The second box is whatever it says on the website. Because, again, I don't know the exact date and I just don't want to give the wrong information. But we're very good at keeping whatever the hub says or whatever the website says, depending on if you bought the keyboard or not yet. That is going to be pretty correct, especially for the AT, because like now the production is in full swing. So,
yeah, it's been pretty crazy. We this week, so that would be last Tuesday, I went to the fulfillment center in the Netherlands, and we and they started shipping on Monday, and we did some what is it in this case, fulfillment vlog, I guess. No, we did a video on fulfillment at our Dutch warehouse. So that's a video that's going to come out next week somewhere. That's a lot of fun. So you can also see what happens on the fulfillment side in the Netherlands in this case. But they're already in full swing doing the picking, packing on the ATGs and shipping. So that's, I think, I don't know, I'm really afraid to say the exact number because they counted by line items. And I forgot if this was like the order count or was the line item count. Because they did, I think, a line item count of something between the 3,000 to 4,000 products on a day. But then in order terms, it would come down to somewhere in the 2,000 or 1,500 to 2,000, something in that area every day. So they're full.
It's still a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And this is like part of the major improvements they've made also in their warehouse, dedicating an area for us when it comes to picking, packing, and fulfilling orders. So because and this time we've also appropriately given them the time to prepare for needing to ship a lot of orders in one time.
Yeah, way in advance. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's going a lot smoother and faster than last time with the 60, or at least when there was some like crazy
Sure.
growth happening, and then we had like big batches, and I was like, oh gosh, never thought we'd run into this problem.
Yeah, I think we even had like a big batch come in, and we didn't even tell them. And they were like, "Wait a second, we can't just ship all the thousands of keyboards per day out of nowhere. Like we have people to arrange." We're like, "Oh yeah, right."
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in the US, it's always been the case where it's a very large fulfillment center with multiple locations, and they've been always relatively fast to adapt and ship out relatively fast. But in Netherlands, we have this one partner and we have one location we use with them. It's a much closer collaboration also, which is very nice, but it's just not at the same level as what we do in the US. It's not that by any means that they're a small company. It's just that the way it operates is not the same as it does in the US.
That's true. Yeah. I think they operate a bit more tailored, right? Because from what I've heard, they also have like a specific section just for Wooting, like picking, packing for Wooting.
Yes, so we have a dedicated area right now because they've identified this as being a big thing, and they were like, what are your expectations going into the future? And they decided we're going to dedicate an area for you so we can optimize and be more efficient. But
Did you give them some Wooting wear so they can wear the shirts when they pack the keyboards?
Well, they were wearing with the video. They were wearing all like blue shirts. They were from Monta, which is the fulfillment center's name. Yeah. We did get pie for everyone there, so I hope they enjoy it. But anyway, so a lot of AT shipping out. I'm very happy to see on Discord also the pictures appearing. I saw on Twitter also pictures from people receiving the ATHE. I've thankfully not seen anybody saying that they were disappointed with what they received, which is also very good.
I mean, maybe it's good to kind of ask now, right? Like, what are people's first impression? I saw some people commenting like, "Oh, I really like it. First time typing on it." But it's always about that sort of like first impression, right? Like, you guys have been waiting for so long. We've been working on it for so long, and it's always like, okay, how do people feel about it? That's always the most exciting part.
I was looking. Should I'm missing it? Oh yeah, we have the anti-dust cover thing come up also.
What is that? And wait, it doesn't have a cover at all?
Yeah, the thing is that with the assembled zinc case, and then if you bought the module and have the separate case, there is no dust cover, and the reason is that the dust cover has a specific function. In this case, inside the box, it makes sure that the keyboard is securely secured into one position, and then when you close the box, there's some tension holding everything together. Whereas otherwise, you might get into that the keys are touching the top lid, and there's some movement and shaking happening. So then we also make that the dust cover. But then with the assembled zinc one, we decided we want to deliver this in a travel case because we felt this would, other than the travel case being really cool, a cool addition if you're going to be spending more money on a more premium keyboard, then it also protects the keyboard really well. But then there's no room, like there's no function and room for a dust cover in that setup.
I think it's also maybe interesting to note that it's not like we ever intended it to be like the dust cover. It was more like needed to just protect the keyboard in the box for shipping. But it kind of got this sort of second life as a dust cover, which we also really liked, and that's also why we started to also call it more like a dust cover. But initially, it was more just for the keyboard protection.
Yeah, it's funny how that's changed over time. So I'm happy that a lot of people like to use it also as a dust cover. And I think the most valid one I've seen, like I was thinking about how well does it work as a dust cover. And I think it's more like if you would eat at your keyboard kind of situation.
Right.
But then it was also a little bit of, well, just don't really do that. And the second
but a lot of people, they do seem to like it. We even have like people like sending us email like, hey, maybe the dust cover broke, like, can I get a new one?
Yeah. But
or they lost it.
if
They
you
would
think
like
about actual dust though, it is pointless because most of the dust in your keyboard or quote unquote dust that is just fat and skin from your hands. So
that's true. Yeah.
and but when you have cats or pets or something like that, then I think it does there's definitely can definitely make a
Yeah.
difference there. Yeah, especially have peeing cats that like peeing on keyboards.
I saw
Right.
somebody ask about why the US shipping is a bit later, and that's just because there's split shipments. So from the factory, there's like a boat that goes to the US, there's a boat or plane that goes to EU, and then we also have a warehouse in Hong Kong. And those have like slightly different arrival times. Some of them just arrive a little bit quicker than the others.
If you might have noticed in the past, we would always, we would, no, with the, I think with the 60 as well, we had this air freight option for people. So that if you
Yeah.
choose for air freight, we would air freight it to the warehouse and then ship it to you. But with the 80, we did not do that because we felt there are two reasons for it. One is that piece of it, like when we do the first delivery of the keyboard, afterwards we want to be as fast as possible to have it in stock also and have it ready for sale. And we don't want to create this situation where you get this like, okay, we air freighted these items here, but we still need to wait for the boat to arrive before we can actually start doing in-stock sales, etc. And we want to have that a bit more in our own control about also controlling the timeline and when people can expect it. That was one part. And the other part is that when shipping to the US, we found that there's like air freighting to the US, there's like a diminishing returns. Our air freight experience to the US has not been great. It's always takes relatively long, and we've built up a pretty good sea freight line to the US, which goes relatively fast. And it's in that way also much more affordable. So we now usually sea freight to the US. We always sea freight to the US. We rarely do air freight to the US, only in exceptional situations. But then to the Netherlands, however, that's a completely different story. That's like sea freight takes so long,
Really,
and there's also a chance of it delaying additionally to like a lot more than what was quoted or was estimated. We air freight almost everything to the Netherlands, which is very expensive, especially if the zinc case is so
It's
expensive.
heavy.
Yeah. And also our air freight forwarder, like the forwarder we work with, I was checking, we have this batch 2 coming, and it's like, well, that's air freight 80 pallets. Have to split it up over multiple airplanes. It's like,
Oh yeah.
but we are working towards also sea freighting a lot more to the Netherlands, but you have to get very, very far ahead in your inventory and everything, and there's a risk involved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I remember at one point it was even that people bought like air freight option, and then shipping it through sea freight was going to be even faster, I think. And we were like, oh, it also kind of puts you in an awkward spot because you don't want to like feel like
We had that with the
you.
US, I think.
Yeah, we had it with the US specifically because air freight. Yeah, I don't know what air freight to the US because the plane itself is fast, of course, but the whole process around it is just so much slower than just going on a boat.
Yeah. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer in the US. We did make sure that we had the production ready for the US before the EU, so we could have it on a boat earlier. Which just doesn't take away; it just takes a little bit longer. But it arrived at the port already. I think it's on its way to the warehouse. Going to be on the way to the warehouse very soon, so it's not going to take much longer before we start shipping US.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I saw some people ask about the white zinc alloy case or alloy case, and we will get to it. We just want to kind of talk about the ATSC deliveries first. So of course, like feel free to keep asking questions. We will get to it, but a bit later in the stream.
Yeah. Let's see. Boat, buy container, fill it up, yeet container, ship, slap ship chan. Yeah. With boat, you can also do LCL. You can share a container with others. But then if you do a whole container, it can go faster because of LCL. You also need to separate the whole container. But container prices have also been going up a lot, but it's still nothing compared to what you're paying for air freight. So, yeah. Right. So,
One
do you have
thing,
any plans?
yeah, sorry, go for it.
Oh, I thought this is like a bit. It's not 100% 80, but random. Do you have any plans to go below the 0.1 millimeter activation point in the future? And this is actually a big topic because you see a lot of, and especially to the ATHE also, and whatever reviews come out, right? You see a lot of competing keyboards that they start touting and saying, wow, we can do 0.01 millimeter accuracy, and you can set the activation there, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The thing that they're leaving out there is that they also want you to calibrate the keyboard every so now and then to make sure they can keep that up, and you get a lot of ghost presses, and it's also very unreliable. So you're in either case not going to use it on that kind of sensitivity.
And is it even accurate, right? Like what they claim versus
Yeah.
what actually does.
Yeah. And there's thankfully an increasing amount of good reviewers that actually do good tests that show you more what the real numbers are of such boards. And I'm not going to deny there are definitely boards out there that can do an amazing job, but then you still have to deal with this piece of software and how much trouble you need to go through calibration, and how often does it happen that you still run into ghost presses and unreliable presses, even if they're accurate. And that's kind of like the defining difference that we have. And it's also one of the reasons why we're not rushing to get to a lower number. We're just prioritizing stability and reliability over any kind of like fancy marketing number.
And I think that also hits a critical one where it's like it's the marketing number, because actually on the background we have been working on getting it more and more accurate as well. And if you use the visual feedback, you can also see, or if you use a new visual feedback tool in the Wootility V5, you can see that along the press you can also just get more accurate numbers. It's just that if you say 0.1 millimeter and as like, okay, this is your specification, we also kind of feel like it needs to be across the entire range. And it's actually quite difficult to detect like your key press at the start of the press, because you kind of have this sort of like, okay, is it actually a key press determination or not? And then how this response to the magnet is also not linear, meaning that at the start of the press or at the end of the press, you have much more steps in between than at the start of the press. So it's also more difficult to distinguish at the start of the press. And so that's why we're also saying that 0.1, because we can also guarantee that across the entire range. And especially towards the end of the press, we can and also do get a lot more accurate. It's just that also like we also feel like, okay, if we want to give a lower number, one, does it even really make a difference, right? And two, can we actually fulfill that promise, which is also a very important part.
Yeah. Fulfilling that promise, especially. And I think everybody with a 60 has also seen that we've been doing, with the firmware updates we've been doing over the last 3 months or so, there's been a consistent update on firmware updates with better calibration, let's say algorithms, and also better filtering techniques and faster ways of processing all of this. So we've both reduced latency with the 6-stage over the last few months, reduced latency, increased accuracy, and that purely with software updating. And this is just also, I think it's also a piece of like for us over time, as we get more information also from end users and learning how we can approach things, how we can also do things faster and better, and just having more time in general to spend on optimizing code, for example.
For sure. I want to talk a little bit about V5 Wootility, because like we released it as like a pretty major update, and it's still sort of like alpha, I would say half beta release, also for other than ADHD users. But I'm very curious for people that have their ADHD delivered, like what was your first experience with the V5 Wootility? Like have you used maybe the Wootility before, or maybe it's new for you? Like kind of what was your experience connecting the keyboard, updating the firmware, kind of getting to the settings that you want to change? Because we worked a lot on the new design specifically to try to make it a lot more user-friendly. and also make the design a lot more consistent than the V4, because the V4 Wootility really felt at one point like this sort of Frankenstein of different ideas that were added over time. And I feel like with V5 we really were able to kind of bring those together in a lot more consistent way. And when I say we, I pretty much just mean Paula, our UI designer, but that's it was kind of her project for the last, geez, how long has she been working on this already? It must be like since February this year, if not January.
The concepts were before that, though, wasn't it?
That's
maybe
true.
Like executing on
more.
it. Yeah, executing on it maybe from that time.
Yeah. Oh, and the extended light bar options are coming, or the notification light. I'm not sure what we call it now, but that's definitely coming. Yeah. So we actually kind of so we set up the release to also include all of the light bar functionality, but wait, let me say here, camera's freezing. Calder?
You want me? Oh, yeah, I see you're frozen. Is that what you mean? Hello?
I frozen. Yeah, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you, though.
Oh,
now it's back. Yeah.
I don't know what happened. But actually, about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we decided to kind of like put the light bar development a little bit on hold and just try to focus on wrapping up what we have for the V5, so we can at least like get a good release out. But we have a lot of the groundwork already done for the light bar, so I do expect more developments there very, very soon.
It's definitely in a very, like, there's actually already quite a lot of functionalities in there, but I think the usability is lacking very much to kind of exploit those functionalities.
Yeah.
And it's really in its starting phase. Obviously, we did want to get much further with what we would present on the first day with the LED bar. But I have to say that it's also good that the way this has been executed is in this way, because we've basically set up, I think said that time I saw in the video, a fundamental way of doing basically indications on the keyboard. And the starting point is with the LED bar, but that's going to expand extensively into other things, up to the point where not one of the first things you're going to see with one of the updates, but then somewhere in the near future where we say, hey, it doesn't need to be the LED bar. You can also select a row of keys that is the LED bar for you.
Yeah. And also on non-ATHC keywords as well.
Yeah. So this is just very much a starting point. It's going to be a lot of funnels to play on this and expanding it. And then how about accessibility for the SDK, Jeroen? There was a question about that a bit back.
For the RGB SDK?
Yes.
I mean, there is sort of a rough idea that, because for the light bar, especially for more advanced functions, like for example, showing your computer's CPU usage or RAM usage or those kind of things, like anything, or let's say Discord notifications, or even for like something like muting your microphone, which is not a standard keyboard operation, we need to have a background service running. So that's like a very, very small app that just runs in the background that can kind of monitor and update lights on the keyboard. We're kind of planning that at one point we'll kind of port the RGB SDK in there. And that gives it also like a lot more options to more easily control the RGB on your keyboard, just like how we from the Wootility control the light bar. But that's not, we're not really ready to release anything with that yet. But that's roughly the idea we want to work towards. Because like for at least like for the people that want it for the Wootility, because the background service is also something completely optional, then they pretty much already have like a complete, what's it called? They already have the complete connection with the RGB SDK, because now you kind of need to install something extra, and that will just kind of be baked in with the background service, which has a very good integration with Wootility.
Just to be also very clear is that background service basically means you do need to have an application open in the background to help, and that is required to communicate with the keyboard continuously, to make changes on the fly or read statuses or anything from the PC itself, what the keyboard otherwise on its own cannot do. But that all of that is an optional setting where you can say, hey, you know what? I'm not interested in these features, so I'm gonna keep the background service off and not use this at all.
Yeah.
And that's also what you can see in the V5 at the LED bar. There's like a first implementation of that. You can see if you go over, I think the RAM status one, for example, it will say, oh, this requires background service. So in that way, we're going to indicate everything in the Wootility, what work does and doesn't require background service, because it's not required and you can always turn it off.
Oh, Diogo's correcting me that Discord activated mic is actually work in progress. I guess because the Discord SDK is kind of, we're using like a method now that is not completely terms of service for Discord, and they make it quite hard to kind of like reach out to them to get the official route. So, but at least it is an example. Yeah.
I thought there was the quick question about the PCB being 1.6 millimeter thick. Yes, it's 1.6 millimeter thick.
Correct.
There was a question, I kind of lost it now. Oh yeah, right. For the 60HE, by the way, you can also use the Wootility V5 if you like. So it's not only for the 80. With the 60, you can already use it. It's just that what we call the light indicator right now, which is the LED bar, doesn't work on the 60HE. It doesn't exist on the 60HE. And right now we don't allow you to do it on the keys yet. But you can already use V5 if you have a 60. And there is, and actually the thing that we haven't really highlighted a lot, in Wootility V5, you can actually set rapid trigger per key, specifically the down and upstroke. So so you can do, rapid trigger sensitivity, you can do now per key on V5, and you can do that also for what is the upstroke and what is the downstroke sensitivity per key, which you cannot do in V4. So if you're interested in that, you should also just start using V5, and that's backwards compatible all the way for all the HE keyboards. I don't know, for all the ARM keyboards, I think, which is Wooting 6HE ARM going forward.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah.
God, is your mic, camera shaking
me.
hitting your desktop? Yeah, hitting your left.
Sorry for that.
So I think how to switch from PCR, that there will be videos about, or there are videos about that. I'll also post that, yeah. The audio control. Let me see, love shipping. See a staff member hiring, how's it going? Still hiring. Still hiring a lot of people basically to get up to speed. That's still ongoing process.
I'm just wanting simple control over the 10 LEDs, not necessarily fancy IFTTT effects or so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think it's very interesting feedback. I was also talking about this with, I think Diogo earlier this week, where it's like, what about just like giving it a color or just giving it the rainbow effect? And this is also something that will come. I think we're just very focused on like the usability of it, but then just kind of having it in sync with your RGB effects, or just kind of like giving it a simple color will also be, it will be part of it.
Right. Okay. So, and then maybe, just related to that fulfillment and production part is, and then we can go into maybe should we then do the white case thing?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Then, so there is a question about EU Brug, and I think that's NA Bridge batch, which is the next one. Mass production is just going as planned. The way the production is running is that there are like different models finishing at different dates. So usually we have everything done at one date, but we kind of want to expedite some of the shipping. So some models are finishing earlier than other ones, and then we're moving those ahead. So that's why it's very difficult also to say anything about dates. One of the reasons, at least. There's a lot more other reasons for that. Did Jeroen's camera just drop there?
Yeah, that's me. I'm using my iPhone as a camera, and crap, this is not going well. And I think like it kind of freezes maybe because a notification comes in or something. I'm not sure.
Well, I have to say also, the raw case. I think a lot of the raw case shipments have not gone out yet. We have them at the factory right now, and there's another. We had them ready yesterday, but then looking through some of the quality control reports, there was some polishing details that were not really nice. We and we decided to rework those. So raw case needs another few days, and then it's going to be ready also to ship to the fulfillment. That's all going by air, so we can make sure we can fulfill as soon as possible. But if you saw your date changed in the hub and you have a raw case, that might be a reason why. Yeah. And I think there's a Korean reviewer that had there's a Japanese and a Korean reviewer. I think no, the Japanese reviewer, and that one I forgot his name for a moment. Um, he has the raw case as well, and you can see the raw case also in use in his video. He made some really nice footage also, and you can really see on the raw case well everything I've been showing also at that time. So yeah.
Definitely
Okay,
the
then.
viewers like that. Yeah. Vioni?
Okay. Yeah, and I think Batsy Tech also has a raw case. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he does. Probably. Mioni, yeah, it's Mioni that has the raw case.
I really
No,
like
it's
this reputation that you develop, Calder, where everybody just comes to the live stream. Hey, the Calder already leaked something. You see,
I
oh,
haven't leaked
Calder's
anything
leaking
yet.
time.
I'm getting better and better at this, you know.
Yeah, what's going on? We haven't leaked anything. Well, there was a question here. Maybe there's some leak. There's no leaking potential. We're trying to kind of bait you, but then it is interesting about somebody wants to pitch the idea of a gamepad controller. Okay, sure, but or a hitbox style controller.
Oh yeah.
Let's just say it's a dream.
Yeah,
It would be
we
cool if we could
have
do that one day. Let's just say it like that.
there's a lot of keyboard projects being pitched, and we kind of run into the problem. I think the biggest problem for us right now is that we're very used to just focusing on one keyboard project for well, almost I guess a couple of years, and that would be like the main thing, and we have very few accessory releases. But now we have a much bigger team, and we're trying to kind of scale up how we do product development and releasing product, so we can both shorten the timeline of development, and we can also do a couple things in parallel. But there's been fast growth. Product development team is primarily, it still consists of the same people mostly, and we've really been trying to find more good people, and it's and better structures to operate in. And I think by the end of the year we do have we will have at least two people. We already had somebody else join product development, and now we'll have two extra. I'm just going to say product development as a whole, right? We'll have two extra people on product development.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think we're going to be more comfortable with how we set things up, and we can do a bit more projects in parallel.
Yeah. This is also what Sweetel says about more colorful double shot PBT or ABS keycaps. Like this is exactly why, like just being limited teams is very focused on just the core products, just the keyboards. But then hopefully you can expand like the accessories a lot more as well.
Yeah. And this is quite a shift, and it takes time for us to reorganize in a way. So that's also why we're a bit slow, especially now also a bit slow with some of the projects. But we're working on making that fast. And okay, a big part of that also means that we can also work on a bit more niche products that we would also be interested in making.
Yeah.
Let alone expanding, more expansive offering, maybe a few lower quantities in that offering. But I don't know how far we're going to go, like with the ATHE, when we talk about all the different case colors and stuff and how we've been offering the cases and everything. I don't think I would repeat that exercise for a new release anymore. And I think I will, but I would still split things up for a customer to be able to purchase a different setup, and especially with the switches, it's very useful also.
Yeah.
But I would not want to have those offerings from the start, and also to aim continuous stock for those, because it is quite annoying operationally speaking. We knew we would have this, but this is kind of every new keyword project we do, we kind of pick a couple of things, say like, okay, let's challenge ourselves with this and kind of figure it out. And well, now
Yeah.
we kind of knew that this would be the case, but it's still the cost. I think the benefits are not great enough to make it worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. And the amount of combinations that you get is just too much. And what always happens is that it's not like there's never like an even division, right? Whereas like if you have like multiple case colors, let's say you have 4 different options, it's never 25%, never 25%, 25. It's never 1/4 for each. It's more like 80% is 2 options, and the 20% is divided over the other 2, over the remaining 2.
Yeah. And you know what always happens? We have multiple colors. Black sells like 8 times of any of the other colors.
Always,
White
yeah.
sells the second most. And then,
Yeah.
you know, then for the other random colors, it's usually pretty divided over them. But accumulative, maybe they compete with the secondary color that sells.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's not really, yeah, it's also something we've learned that it's, you know, it's not just a assumption that it might be the case. No, it is actually the case. We can now prove
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy how big that difference
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Okay.
It's
Then
also kind of interesting because
yeah. Well, we're gonna get into the whites. So just Optimum, we sent him the review units. It delivered at the wrong address. It was our fault. We had an old, or well, for some reason under his name, a different address that was taken by our system automatically when we put in the order. This wasn't double checked. Wrongly delivered. Somebody's very happy now with a 8HE or has absolutely no clue what the hell that was doing on the doorstep. He gave it to somebody else. I don't know. A new parcel is on its way to Optimum. It really sucks. Optimum, we really wanted him to have it on time and soon, but then yeah, it is what it is. So it's going to take a bit longer before he has something out. And then for the collab keyboard that we have, or at least the case, we just finished the 1000 production. We're getting into the logistical part, and we still need to work on the full release. There is this one other item we're also going to be offering that at the same time, which is the friction pad, 6HE friction pad. And this friction pad, basically, you can use with Optimum case, you can use with LMAs, but you can do a friction fit with the 60, meaning that you can install this in the module. You have this like, well, let's say silicone pad, you can install into the module, and then you only need to grab the module and slide it into the LMAs or Optimum case. I think it, and it also works in the Tofu case, and you don't need to screw anything. And I can tell you right now, huge difference when it comes to typing sound department. Okay, now the zinc white case, gummy O-ring but square. Yes, something like that. Okay, the zinc white case. So some of you have already seen the review from Squashy, I assume. You've also seen the review from Hipyo, and they both had some gripes with the white case. The first one was Squashy, who had a little chipped piece, paint piece, was chipped off on the side of the case. This just falls under warranty. This is something that any kind of painted product has a chance of it happening. I don't know why it happened in his case specifically. I wouldn't know how large, how applicable this is going to be. I hope it just didn't happen during shipping. That's kind of the thing. That is the thing that we are more concerned about. But otherwise, it falls under warranty. You get a new case. You can return a unit and get a new unit. That is all fine. Then for Hipyo, he was bringing up about the black scratching on the white case. And then this is a little bit more tricky. There's 2 parts of this. The first part is that with any white kind of product, and especially if it's painted, it is just, regardless, going to be very easy to get any kind of scuffing, dirt, or scratching happening, or visible scratching happening on this, because the fact it is very white, extremely white. And this will definitely be true if you do this with a black product, because plastics against a very hard, stiff surface with malleable paint on it, it's gonna transfer a piece of the plastic onto a white surface. It's going to be very clear. And then scratching with a metal object on a malleable type of, to degree paint, it's going to leave a mark behind. That is just how it is with any of the white painted cases in general. You can grab other product that's white painted. You'll most likely experience the same thing. Only if it's anodized, which is not possible with white, you will not experience this. But that doesn't mean that we would say right now, hey, you know what? This is the quality that we accept, and this is what we want to deliver to you at the front door, and how we want you to be using the keyboard for the next at least 4 years and longer. So we are looking right now at, okay, what is the degree of this issue? Meaning, how easily does this happen? What from all the white cases that we have right now within the team, we're also looking at, hey, what have you now experienced with the white case when it comes to damage, when it comes to scuffs, when it comes to black marks, scratching, to kind of assess, how high up our head should we bring this, right? So it is definitely a thing that if it's not brought up, it's something that you feel like, oh, well, okay, well, that's obvious. If it is brought up, it's like, oh, well, that's not good. And we can't get around that. So we've already decided to put a pause on shipping more of the white cases until we come to a firm conclusion on how we want to approach this and what do we assess to be the degree of the issue. But in all cases, we want to make sure that we just deliver on the best quality that we can. And if this is not the quality that we're expecting, then we're going to do something about it. So that is the current state. There's not more information or more decision making or conclusions. And anybody that already received their zinc white case, which I'm sure, it's unlike you had a chip, and I'm sure also you didn't even think about the scratching stuff. And I'm also sure that you're really enjoying the color, and it's not full of like scuffs and everything already. I'm sure that is the case already. However, you are also included in all the considerations that we're making. So don't worry, just use the product, have fun with it, and once we get to a firm conclusion, you will also be included into whatever that conclusion might be.
Yeah. I think it's also good to highlight that at this very moment, we also don't really know the full scale of it, because we've seen it in the videos, right? But then we also know that we shipped a lot of white zinc cases to customers, and we have not received a lot of reports for it yet. But then it could also be that because of these videos that people start to pay more attention to it. So it's also kind of like we're also now at a phase where we just want to be cautious and also to kind of try to get a clear picture of like what is the real situation, like what is the real situation out there.
Yeah. And then for the black version, I'm not expecting anything similar, just for the fact that it's black and it's also a different painting process. And whatever does happen with the black one, honestly, I will just be perplexed, because this is just that one. It's a different type of process. It's a very, let's say, standardized size type of process for these type of products. I would be pretty perplexed if it gets into something similar. But regardless, we have the same approach of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think what Turbo just said, that approach, that's also what we hope people will kind of take away from it. It was like, okay, ADC shipped today with a white case, a positive will be okay. We are too. It's just that we've seen some reports, and we just want to make sure we're cautious. We just want to make sure that your product will just live up to its expectation, and we will follow it up in the best way that we can. But it's also about kind of like seeing what the real impact is outside of these like few cases that we've seen so far.
I'm going to just amplify for a moment what Wasabi is saying. because I also know he has one of the review units maybe, or he received his final unit. He loves the PCR ABS Ghost version. Yeah. You know what I think is going to happen, Jeroen?
What?
Maybe it's going to exceed the black version once it's more out there. People are using it. They're like, you know what?
So?
Calder was right. This is just a better,
Oh wait,
better
are you?
color.
You're still
The Ghost
salty
is
about that
just
you lost
better
the
than
poll?
black.
Hey, Calder, you're still salty that you lost the poll for the Ghost version.
I'm still very salted about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Very disappointed in how popular black is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
then
think
for
the Ghost
anybody
one
that
is
got,
really good. That's true.
I think Ghost communicates has a lot of communication happening. The Ghost version when it comes to the complete design of the keyboard, whereas I feel black it's super muted. Also, when you look at the top of the keyboard, you really need to have like an angle looking at the keyboard with the black one to get more of all the finishes and the design details. Well, the Ghost from the top, it already starts to look interesting regardless. But these are my opinions, okay? I mean, my opinions don't apply to apparently 70% or 60% of the
For now,
people.
your opinions need kind of time to be transmitted to people, like once they watch the live stream more and more. Because everybody comes in for the Calder leaves with the Calder brainwash. No, I think the Ghost is. I do agree with like something with like the Ghost version. It's not something that really translates that well in renders. Like with black, you know what to expect, right? Like everybody knows what that looks like. But how like the Ghost kind of plays around with the details, how that transparent look kind of how that looks, that's really something that you kind of need to see. And then, who knows, like once ports start to spread.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. But then for now, please buy black
pictures
because
don't
we're
do justice,
producing quite a lot of
exactly.
black because of you guys. So don't make a huge shift.
That's why please help us.
Gradually do it, okay?
The Ghost one is still available. It's just that it's we just had it planned as part of the first batch, or like the first. Let's say we make like a production planning, right, and then we just try to kind of even it out. But then if we see that not a lot of people buy the Ghosts, then we also can't really like plan too much for it down the line. So that's why it is available now. I just checked the website.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're planning to not hold it for now, but then it is something that does need to have like a relatively decent amount of flow for it to keep going.
I think I need to prove my point because which case you use Calder, and right now I'm in the Netherlands for another
What are you using
little time.
Walking review?
Yeah. So I had to send myself an ATHE to make sure to like do a bunch of testing stuff, and I'll
Okay, which one do you use? Oh, okay. Well, I don't need to move my microphone, my camera there yet. Oh, there we go. It is. Bum bum.
the Ghost.
It is the Ghost version.
Yes.
There you go.
So yes, I am using the Ghost version.
Sick.
All right. Oh. My Ghost. Oh, I see that. Oh yeah. And then the Frost case, I feel a little bit sorry that we didn't have assembled Frost from the start. We still don't have an assembled Frost. I do feel sorry about that. It was a little bit of an oopsie. It was also a bit of SKU control. We didn't want to have too many assembled versions. We're kind of like out there already with the Zinc ones. We should have had an assembled also available. So that's a little bit of an oopsie there. Because the Frosted is also, I feel the Frosted also looks very good. Don't get me wrong. I am pro Ghost. Frosted would be my secondary for plastic. Black is just on the bottom of my list.
I mean, black is just black, right? Like it is what it is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just nice.
All right. Right. So now we opened up the topic about the white zinc already, and then. Ghost looks nice, but I'm afraid of it getting dirty inside, and then I'll fixate on it. That's a very interesting take. I don't think you're gonna see that getting dirty on the inside. Like
Oh
usually it
no,
gets really, really
yeah.
dirty, full of hairs, fat, crumbs,
Oh
skin
no.
in between the switches, the keys on
Well,
the top.
I've repaired keyboards. You wouldn't believe like what happened with them. That's why I don't do it anymore. Stop.
Oh,
Oh, Derp, I just found the ghost version. I thought that was just a button for white. I mean, it
lol.
is. Wait, it does have a different different
Has
color for the spots, right?
it does, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's a little bit, yeah. You would want to have a color swatch and text or something. I think that's
Oh.
maybe the more effective. But okay.
Any plan for a full transparent frost case? We actually did like a full transparent case, right? And it didn't feel as
The
good. I don't remember.
prototype version, no, for EVT, we make full transparent ones, like very clear transparent, not
Yeah,
frosted
for
like we have
checking.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do that to see all the mechanical components and how the whole fitting is. But the frosted looks better than this. And there's also what is also a big challenge with any kind of transparent case. The more transparent it is, the more it is more chance it is going to be defect the case, because you can get things like plastic fatigue, which cause like a white like bend mark, let's say.
Oh,
Yeah, and the more transparent it is, the easier it is to see that. So if you have a transparent case, you make it frosted, it's a little bit easier to hide those kind of things. And then you also have this piece of like, what if there is some kind of flow mark where the plastic doesn't really come together really well? When you have like right now here, you can see that the middle part is actually fully transparent. There's no etching on this. So you can see I can reflect light on it, and reflecting light on stuff can easily display defects or issues with the surface. Whereas if you etch the surface, what we did here, we have a bit of etching. That's why it's not as shiny, and it can also create a frost. It is much easier to hide those kind of marks. These are
So maybe the person that says for the ghost that they're worried about it, they shouldn't be too worried about it because it still has the etching, right? Like it's not like a full transparent.
Oh yeah, I mean in general, I think we did a really good job in controlling all of this, and the injection is happening pretty well. And this is also the post-consumer recycled plastic, which makes it more. Oh, sorry, I'm doing this again. It's more difficult to control over this because there's a lot more shrinkage happening with this material. But we actually opened the mold specifically for this material, so we didn't like have a mold and then change the material and then need to do all kinds of controls. No, we opened the mold specifically for this material, so we could also very much look at how can we control the plastic flow into the mold and fix these type of flow issues into the mold instead of an afterthought. Is Rowan flexing?
Where's Rowan flexing on everybody? I'm a bit confused.
I don't know. Where is Rowan flexing?
Is it possible to see the RGB in the frost case with white keycap somewhere? Maybe in Sander's video? Does Sander show the frost case in one of his videos?
If you go to our YouTube channel right now, there's unpacking of every model available, I think.
But I'm not sure if he also has like fully assembled with RGB for the frost
The frost
case.
one, I don't think so. Fully assembled, I don't think so. No.
Oh, Rowan has the ATG frost case. There
That's
you go.
right.
But Rowan gets all the cool stuff. But Rowan is just not allowed to be on stream anymore because she leaks more than Calder. It's a joke,
Apparently,
Rowan.
the new leaker. Okay. I'm gonna.
What is the least selected case during this Foundry stage? I would assume it's the Ghost, also because it's only available together with the module.
Yeah. Yeah, we have all case colors also available as a case on its own. So I think black would be the least. No, I'm probably wrong. I would need to double check that actually. I wouldn't know for sure. Wait, assuming that ATHE requires no further improvement, what's in mind for a future project product? Yeah, well, you assumed wrong. Apparently, according to Hipyo, There's a lot to improve on ATHE. But then when it comes to when it comes to future products and just ATHE overall, like the ATHE, there's still some products that we're developing that is applicable to current models. Very simple one right now is then the friction fit pad, right, for the 6HE, so you can do a mod on it and make it sound better. But we also have a couple other projects that apply to all keyboards, and yeah, we are that. Well, let's say that's one side of development, and the other side of development is that with the ATHE, we have quite some roads to open, or quite some. We have quite a way to go when it comes to cases and case availability.
Yeah.
I think our starting position is in the -1, meaning that we, because of the layout that we have for the 80, there is obviously zero compatibility with anything else. Doesn't mean that if we would have made, but well, let's say a pro con, okay? So there's that. If we would have gone for a 10 keyless layout, we would have still been could have still been at a -1 position, unless we would have made it 100% copying somebody else's way of mounting a 10 keyless keyboard. But that would also influence how the mounting happens, and you'll be fixed with that mounting system. And I think with the ATHE, what we're trying to do right now is first release a universal silicone pad that has a little bit easier mounting mechanism, gasket mounting mechanism, than what we have right now for our case specific. And then we're going to have a reference design for the ATHE if you want to do CNC aluminum using that universal gasket mounting pad that other case makers can use as a reference design and build around. That's one of the first steps. And from there, we're just very focused. And we're also obviously releasing the design files of the 80. So you could make a case around the current pad of the 80. But then those are the first steps we're taking, just to make sure that with the 80, there's also a path to explore and have fun. And I think, I hope that we can really break ways with that. It's going to be fun. I hope also for other case makers that they would give it a shot. There are some ideas also how we can stimulate case makers to make a case, like for example, selling it directly on our store, which will reach a huge audience, obviously. But those things are just not in the works right now. And first we need to deliver ATHEs, get production running, get our software a little bit further, and then we can start opening up this, get our universal design thing out there, and then we can start like increasingly open up on this.
Yeah.
So
Somebody says
I didn't leak, right?
No, you did great. I don't know.
This was a
What
leaked
saying.
question, so
Yeah, no. I mean, you didn't. I mean, you didn't cover future products, but then it's too early to talk about that. But then,
yeah, I can. There's too much. Yeah,
it's too early to talk about that part.
Yeah.
I think Amazon has a very good comment about the Frost case, where it's like if you go to the website, even if you pick the Frost option, it's not that clear like what it really is. And I'm also kind of checking now, like you can see like the little preview image, but you can't even really see like a full image from it. So I think this is also something that we might need to work on a bit with the configurator, like how that shows the different colors. Because it doesn't. I mean, it's already hard, right, to show like how the transparent looks, but in this case, it doesn't really show you anything. So that's also something we can improve on. I made note of it.
We are reading chat, by the way. Yes. This one is on the topic of future products. This question is related. Have you considered making a split keyboard with more thumb key? Oh, well, kind of related. Or a custom gaming layout board that raises for ergonomics, which gives you more room for thumb keys. I read it a little bit too fast before, but then at the moment we're not. I can say what we're not planning to do. We're not planning to do a split keyboard at the moment. But what we are looking at is can we do split spacebar stuff? So we want to. We're going to start experimenting by making one of our keyboards with a split spacebar, and see what the response is going to be, and hopefully also kind of push for split spacebar to become more of a standard. Because split spacebar, to be honest, I've not personally just been using this because I'm only using the Wooting keyboards right now, and there's not a lot of great split spacebar keyboards out there. But from my perspective, from what I'm seeing, is that split spacebar is a much more beneficial key layout to be using, especially if you want to start using a lot of function. It's a huge win. And for gaming, you know, if you have split spacebar, you have that extra button for your thumb also. It's also huge. And yeah, it's a bit weird how that is not more of a thing. Also for pro players, how that is not utilized, because they can I think a lot of pro players can get huge gains or huge wins by just changing their keyboard layout and utilizing additional buttons for very novel actions or very like infrequent actions, to have a dedicated button for it.
There's quite a lot of love for the split spacebar Calder. Let's just hope it doesn't suffer the same fate as the Ghost case.
No!
Oh, not again, not again.
Well,
No,
until so far, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
You don't know what the Ghost case fate is yet. You know, you just know that Ghost case is not the most popular one. Maybe it will.
You can support both split and non-split in software, right? No, you cannot, because you have the stabilizers, so you can't combine it. On the
software-wise, you can support both, right? But you cannot hardware.
Oh yeah, software-wise, yeah. I guess if you make a special keycap that covers all the switches, then or something. But,
yeah. I've also tried once. There was a keyboard maker that made a space bar by just using 3 switches, and which was very fun. I think it was with ClackyCon. We have ClackyCon this Saturday also.
Right.
But in theory, if you would press here, right? Because if you don't have a stabilizer, the whole key doesn't go down. It just like skews into one direction. But with analog keys, however, if you would press here, we can probably have a good estimate of which area you're pressing the key. So we would still be able to determine, hey, you're pressing the middle one, you're pressing this area, or pressing that area. So you could still have 3 keys over a single spacebar in a way. And you can also still use it as a whole spacebar. But the problem is kind of, it feels really weird.
Yeah. There's reasons in the gist layout. Yeah, the gist layout is also interesting with those extra keys.
Yeah, the gist does, yeah. But it just is slightly different from what you'd want from a split spacebar. It does have a smaller spacebar with more keys next to it.
Yeah. There's also an interesting sense says that what if instead of a split spacebar, it's 3 spacebar buttons? Because this is also like, if you do, once you kind of get away from, okay, you have 1 big spacebar, you still have like some options how to split up.
When it comes, HM66 supports non and split spacebar, but that's only possible if you do plate-mounted stabilizers, I think. And I need to double check again, but I think when it comes to LED lights, does it have LEDs? It could be that it doesn't have LEDs, because otherwise it's also not compatible. There's this thing with if you do the split spacebar, there's this little bit of an overlap between stabilizers and switches, and you also have to deal with the switch plate openings. Sorry?
Oh, Sarkasar has confirmed that it only has 1 LED. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And some people stops. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue. We've been looking into it because we've wanted to make it PCB compatible with split from a very early phase, but then we've looked at it multiple times. It's just not possible to do it without sacrificing few huge components that a lot of people very much appreciate. I know. Tape mod and ATHE. I would not do the tape mod and the ATHE. I would just leave it for what it is. I don't think it's worth going for all the steps. I think in my opinion, the PET film that we have on the back of the PCB already does the job like 80% of the job. And if you do the tape mod itself, you'll just get a 20% gain maybe. So only if you're just interested in, I would refresh it maybe somewhere down the line or something, just to have fun and have a different sound profile. Otherwise, I wouldn't go for the trouble. Back to my case.
split scissor could become the new standard for gaming. It's something we're going to experiment with. I hope it picks up. I'm also curious to try.
Yeah.
There were two questions. Quick question I want to get to. Somebody asked about whether the Wootility backend ended up being in Rust, and specifically the background service. Yes, it's not released yet, but it will come soon. And Wootility v5 available for download. We just have it as Wootility web available now because we are still tweaking it so much, and it's kind of much easier to just push to Wootility web. But once we kind of like reach a step where it's a bit more stable, we'll also release the downloads, I think within a few weeks.
Yeah. I'll jump back a bit on the last part about the tape mod. Will you guys implement an inclusion of the tape mod in some way in future batches? The PET film on the back of the PCB is our tape mod. It's just a different material of your typical tape mod with painter's tape. And it's not possible to use painter's tape on a production level because painter's tape is a terrible type of tape to use on the back of a PCB on a production level because the glue on there is made for a completely different application. So also now the PET with the PET film, what you can see right now, it's very easy to grab it and just like release it and stick it again. But we are looking at other materials that we could use as a tape mod to see if there's some other favorite that we might have. But essentially, in my opinion, when it comes to sound, and maybe this links to the Hipio part, right? Is when it comes to the sound of the keyboard, yeah, everybody has their own preference in what they like more or less. And I would put the spectrum, there's a spectrum of sound, and you can sit somewhere in that spectrum, and there's a quality of sound, okay? And from my viewpoint, the quality of sound, you're just looking at, okay, does the keyboard have pinging? Does it have pinging, lots of vibrations through the case, right? Like you're causing tinging sounds. Does it is there a rattle sound in the stabilizers, for example? And then you can argue that, how do I say that? All right, a piece of volume, the volume of the keyboard when you're typing, right? Is the sound only a high frequency sound, right? There's no it's only high frequency, making it very annoying of a sound, right? I think there's some fundamentals there that if you don't have those fundamentals right, then it is a terrible sounding keyboard, okay? But if you go into, once you're above that level, quality level, then you get into a spectrum, which is a subjective spectrum of you like more of a deeper sounding Falcon keyboard, or do you like a bit more of a higher pitched marbly sound keyboard? And it's usually somewhere in between those two what people like. Either like a little bit more marbly, where you have very clear, crisp key sounds, or you have people that like it a little bit more focky, where you can feel like you're on the keys, right? And to get one or the other result is a combination of specifically the switch as first, and secondary the case, and the case, the foams and materials you use inside. So first of all, the switch is very, very dependent if you're going to get more of a fock or more of a clack, let's say, which is the marble sound. But then the case is going to make sure how well tuned that sound is, how well tuned in that sound is, and how much volume that sound might have, and if there's going to be any kind of like unwanted additional sounds around it, let's say. When making a keyboard, you kind of need to make a decision, where do you want to sit? And we have built a keyboard that's definitely more focky. It's less marbly. If you put marbly switches in there, it's going to be more muted than you would otherwise be able to achieve in other ways, because we've created more focky and more silent. And that's where we are on the spectrum of with our keyboard. And I think that's kind of the part which is a little bit unfortunate with the Hipio video, is that he is actually telling you very clearly what he does not like, and he's not telling you how does this compare in the spectrum of preferences that you could have, right? And yeah, that's just a bit unfortunate. But then all the same is that this is also every Hipio video is like this. That is also why it's so entertaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
also, yeah, that makes it fun to watch also,
I think you
So
also covered that in the comment that you made, where it's like, okay, we're just kind of laughing and crying because it's a very it's a very entertaining video. But then I feel like sometimes I kind of feel like he was like too strict of a teach. Like I was thinking like, okay, sometimes you have let's say you're a very good student and you have a teacher that's very strict, and you get like straight eights, right? And he's like kind of expecting that you get all tens, and then he's so disappointed in you, and then you just cry. That's how I kind of feel like watching his video.
but I think then still there's a lot for us to take away from the video because
I think so.
he tunes in a lot on that piece of rattle that happens, like he calls it like scratching on the board. I don't experience it as scratching on the board, but there is this piece of rattle that you have in HE keyboards, which is basically and we had that when we were talking with him. There's like a 2-hour video where we're talking with each other about topics in general. But then when you have this like rattle sound, is basically the stem
Oh shit.
returns. What?
Oh, Mark says that in my example, people don't actually know because people use different rating systems in like different countries. That's how. Never mind.
Okay. Anyway, that rattle sound is basically when the stem of the switch returns to its resting position, it will slightly shake. And the bigger the tolerances of what holding that stem are, the more the shake will be, and the more vibrations you get. And that vibration sound is the rattle sound. And depending on the keycaps you have installed, it can be a little bit higher pitched or lower pitched, but it will still be there. You called it chatter. Yeah, chatter is, yeah, that would be the same. I would, yeah, either chatter. I would.
I think chatter is not really fair, right? Because chatter is usually described for like one switch influencing the one next to it. That's key chatter, right?
Right. But then, well, I would need to look up the definition. But I would actually expect chatter to be you have multiple inputs
Yeah, that's
situation,
true. It's just more
right? And that
technical,
usually
I
comes
guess.
from the two metal contacts.
Yeah.
But then in either case, it's something he really doesn't like. It's a general problem with HE switches overall. Wait, what was the thing? Right. And that's just something he doesn't like, and it's a general thing of HE switches. But there's no HE switch out there right now that doesn't have it. There might be one, by the way, now think of it. TTC made a new switch where you can have like all these like swappable stem things, and one of them is like a silicone one. So they have like silicone on the return and no silicone on the bottom out. And that removes the complete sound of the return. Yeah. But that's a new switch.
Yeah. I think, but one thing that kind of stuck with me with the Hipio review, and this was something that at least somebody pointed out on our Slack, which is like I feel like he gets stuck a bit too much on the price point, and I do agree that like in his sort of like his general point is like, okay, this price point set like certain expectation, and that's why blah 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 all negative, right? But I feel like he doesn't really come with a good alternative for the same price point that hits all the same points, because because like he at one point even kind of struggles in the video to name the example, and then he has kind of like this edit later, but then he also brings up keyboards where the software is just complete shit. And there's even a comment I saw on the video where it's like, yeah, somebody saw the 68C review from Hypotech and then thought like, oh, the 68C is terrible, and then tried all these other HE keyboards, had like really bad experiences with like the either the quality control or like the software stability, and then ending up buying the 60 and really liking it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think like his criticism invalid at all or something, but then I also don't feel like it's places it fairly within the context of HE keyboards out there. And I think it's also a little bit of there's just, to make a really good analog keyboards, there's also just a lot more to it. And I feel like he kind of simplifies that part that makes an analog keyboard good, which is that stability in your analog signal across all different keys, across all different keyboards, combined with like great software both for on the keyboard and the Wootility. I feel like he kind of writes that off a bit too much.
Yeah. And there's also a general thing with Hipio is that I feel he's also very practical, which can be very good, where there's a lot of Chinese brand keyboards and accessories out there where you can very cheaply make a good sounding keyboard, which is true.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And you can also get alternative HE keyboards for less, but then it's still viewed in a very practical way. And what you're missing then kind of there is that, well, hold on, if you're going to get a Wooting keyboard, where are the other alternatives like a Razer keyboard or a SteelSeries keyboard or a Logitech keyboard that is on the shelf, you can immediately get in the store and is more known to people? How does it compare with those keyboards then, right? And that was not like, there's absolutely no mention or no referencing at all. Well, I think a lot of the people that now especially get to know Wooting are very much of the level of, well, I used to have a Razer, I used to have a Corsair, I used to have a Logitech keyboard, and they have absolutely no reference for it. So they will just hear, well, it doesn't sound good, but look, I'm comparing it to this, like how cheap I could make a good sounding one, without comparing it with like, well, this is the alternative you as a consumer would actually have when you're looking for this type of keyboard. And that is what Jeroen is talking about. It's not put into context of what is otherwise available to you if you're specifically interested in these things. And that's just a little bit unfortunate because from my viewpoint, if you listen to the ATHE and the sound, it's really great. Like if I compare it also, compared to when we released the 60HE, like I felt the time when we released the 60HE was good. But over time, the standards have raised, right? And I feel ATHE meets those standards and so it's better than what we did with the 60HE.
Yeah. Because somebody says it makes you guys more of a software than hardware company, though. There's still a lot to do if you want to compete with other keyboard manufacturers. And I don't really agree. Like if you look at the sound and the feel of the ATHE, it's really good. I mean, the ATHE is also expensive, but I feel like you also get a good experience in return. And what I was saying before is not, oh, we are just software, we're just good at software. I'm saying if you want to make a good analog keyboard, it is about the full package. And that includes the software and the hardware. Like you want to try to make a good experience for both. And if you say, well, I can get this cheaper HE keyboard that matches the sound and it's $100, but the software is shit, then it's not a good analog keyboard. It's like, like it can match it on one dimension, but can it match it on all dimensions?
Yeah.
And at least like we try to get like to make a very good product on all dimensions. Because I think like at the end of the day, like the criticisms that he had in the videos are fair. Like it's not like they're not wrong. They're not like factually wrong or anything. I just hope that he wasn't so harsh on us. Because I think you had a long talk with him. He does also like what we do. I think he also had an enjoyable talk with you. But I think like he also it also makes it entertaining the video to take like what he does in his mindset and kind of put it into overdrive, right? And I don't know like how much he also sort of like thinks that versus like kind of like makes it a little bit more extreme for the video. But then
well, that's what also makes it entertaining. So
yes, it's
even if it was even him covering the ATHE, I hear a lot of things he's saying. It's entertaining for me. Like I'm not like cringing at everything he's saying, right? And he is making some valid points. When we were discussing also, like one of his biggest things is also that he really dislikes FOMO, and these type of products can create a lot of FOMO. And I agree with him. It's definitely the case. And I think what he's been trying to do here a lot also is to help relevate things, like removing the piece of FOMO. Especially
like relativate. Is it relativate?
I don't know whatever. Put it like ground things a bit. I don't know what the right wording is for it.
Yes.
And I think that is very good. it's a little bit unfortunate that he used us as the example also, because he's trying to. It kind of at some point it did feel like he was trying to make more of a point than putting it into the spectrum of I'm interested in this blah blah blah. But then from that perspective, I think what the big takeaway for us though for that video is that what he mentioned about the switch and the chatter or the rattle that he doesn't like, that's a valid point. There's definitely something that can be done there. And I think also that when it comes to building an even better, and this kind of the problem, right? He made it sound like, well, it doesn't sound good, but from my biased perspective then, right? When the spectrums are just explaining, it does sound good, but he wants to make it sound even better up to a certain high level of the enthusiast mechanical keyboard level. Like this, and that is great that he puts us in that expectations, because it means he's also rooting for us to meet that level. That's also how you see that video.
There was also a comment kind of like he responded to somebody else like, oh, are you gonna review the GMK Pro 3? And he was like, lol, no, because like compared to that, Wooting keyboard is going to be keyboard of the year. So it's kind of like, it's kind of nice that he kind of like, in a way, he does group us in with people that care more about mechanical keyboards and their feeling.
Yeah. And then on that spectrum, we are definitely, I think if we compare our keyboard with enthusiast level keyboards that are really giving you a certain sound and a higher level sound, we can always achieve to do better in either case. So it's definitely, I'm not going to say here, well, ATHE is the peak of keyboard sound experience or something like that. I wouldn't start saying that necessarily, but I do think that we got 90% right, and you're trying to tune for 10%. And that piece is where we really, have ways we can still make a lot of ways forward. And it's also, I have to say also, this whole sound, when it comes to keyboard experience sound wise, it's very challenging also, because there's also very simple things like the keycaps. We have a double shot PBT keycap. It's OEM profile. And we have to offer this because that's what we have available in all these different languages. That's what we have available to mass produce. So we can't use the keycap element anymore to tune sound in a different way. And because with the switches, there's a certain
because that's also what he did in this mod, right? Like change the keycaps to the GMK keycaps. Yeah, it sounds better. Yeah, it's also a very good set.
Yeah. So there's there's limitations to which way can we push it sound wise, but we are, in my opinion, we are on the subjective level. So either you like that kind of sound profile, or you don't like that sound profile, but it's not like Vaser level, where it's, I don't know, that like really shilly, soulless sounding keyboard. So that is, we're far beyond that level. Like that's
definitely. I actually saw another comment or somebody in the stream saying like, oh, wait, let me actually find it back. About saying like, okay, also watched the Hypnotech video and didn't buy the 60, and then ended up getting it later and really liking it. He was scared to get it first, and then he got it and actually really liked it because it was so much better than his Razer keyboard. Oh, here, I was worried about after Hypio's video, but I'm not enthusiast. And after my Razer, I'm super happy with the product I got.
Which is the ATHE in this case, or the 60? One of the
60, I think. The 60.
The 60?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's, it doesn't specify.
Yeah. But then it's also hard to, I mean, there's the fact also, like, I think, oh, well, doesn't have a name there, but they say competitors exist and they make aluminum keyboards for like $200 less. They don't make it for $200 less. They might make it for a metal case for $100 less compared to the zinc one. I don't, and if it is $200, it's not an HE keyboard for sure. I think if you, he grabbed the example of the Boog 75, for example, which is a CNC aluminum case HE type of keyboard. But is not part of that is that keyboard's actually $220. It's not $80 cheaper or something. Now you're at $60 cheaper. And then there's another factor is that if you want to ship it to the US, that's another, was it $35 or so? So you can tack that on top as well. If it would be shipping to Europe, and if you compare it with our euro prices also, you need to start getting duties and taxes. And when if that cost differentiator now is about $30, then you get into the question, well, is it worth $30 difference when the software is complete shit? So it's, So when we look at that, if we do this like dollar comparison story, right, there's also more to take into consideration. So it was also not 100% accurate. I think the Monk's Geek one is specifically very cheap. But yeah, it is true. There are competitors that offer an aluminum case type of keyboard that is also an HE keyboard that is going to clock in cheaper than our keyboards. And that's also a situation where we've said, you know what? We cannot compete on that level because what they are doing,
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. And we cannot compete on that level because we cannot compete with those type of costs. And they have so many ways to cut corners on cost that we are simply not interested in doing, nor want to put ourselves in that situation. And this is also why very often with a lot of those boards, what you're going to see is they've released it. Oh, well, it didn't sell that well.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, let's release another version and completely ignore the previous one that we released and leaving you with the shit that came with the first version. And or there's something very popular right now, and they start working on the new popular thing, the new shiny object, and whatever they just made before, they absolutely don't give a shit anymore.
Oh.
There's a lot of that happening as well.
Random Frank Priest just dropped in the chat, typing this on my ADT right now.
Nice.
Hey, thanks for the review. Random Frank Priest was really cool. And don't worry about dropping it a bit earlier. Like it's not like we really cared. It was just because like people were already getting their keyboards anyway, so it was not like it's the timing of it made that big of a difference. But it was funny enough. But it's nice that you took it offline and put it back online at the same time.
Yeah, and this is also the first time we did an embargo date, I think, with reviews. Yeah, the first time we also approached it this way. So it's also fun for us to experience this. It's like a first time.
Yeah, and we actually had I know some people also kind of gathered together from Wooting to kind of watch some reviews.
Yeah.
Around conversion, yeah, that's what I thought, yeah, because it was exactly 2 hours earlier, I think. Wow.
Yeah, but doesn't really make a difference to us. We're still on the same day.
Yeah, that was a great video.
Yes. What Random Frank does really great is the shots, the cinema, like the video, like all the video shots. Yeah.
Shots is so good.
Yeah.
And I feel there was also like one little segment I really loved about like him. I think he was kind of breaking down the switch, and he had like a nice little shot of the notepad and then all the parts, and then kind of like written down with the marker.
Yeah.
And the little black marker background. It's really nicely done. Like you see that, you're like, oh, that's very cool. That's a cool idea. Maybe we'll take that one.
All relatively fast, huh? Because we didn't really have that. Yeah. There was not a lot of time between receiving and the embargo date. So, So I don't know what you do exactly, but you really really tuned in your process. That's
yeah, true. That was a good point. Yeah.
See that the issue.
Yeah, only sees is Frank often, definitely.
Okay. Do we still want to cover a few more questions and then start wrapping up?
Yeah, I think so. It's actually getting quite late here.
Yeah. Well, you're almost at what is that? 11? 18,
yeah, it's getting close to 10:30 now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the ADHD launch stream, so I wanted to take some time for it. Yeah. But I just, the final word I want to say on the Hypotech video, because somebody says like, oh, he's not going to get a review keyboard anymore, and he definitely will.
No.
Of course he'll get another keyboard. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to miss out on this kind of content.
Now, the challenge, what he basically did is he set a challenge, which is to, convince him otherwise with maybe a future model, right? Maybe a variation of the model, who knows? So the critique is is very welcome. I'm going to be curious also how Batsy Tech will experience the keyboard, and what kind of critique there might be there.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be doing a lot more of the building, taking it apart and building parts, I think. So that's going to be interesting as well. Also, probably with more switch variations. I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm.
True. Yeah. Okay, let's do a few more questions and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah. I like to. Oh wait, what they say about the gasket, is that really a flaw? So I think it is good to also explain what and no leak, by the way. See how good I am. No leaking today. Okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So when it comes to gaskets, if you do a gasket, you're doing gaskets wrong if the PCBA or switch plate. I said no. I'm saying I should do it this other way wrong. You're doing gaskets wrong if you're not sandwiching something. Okay, I will put it that way. So in other words, whatever result that might be, that is still a gasket. So there's no, this is a gasket or this is not a gasket. Like you sandwich something in between, it's a gasket. Okay, that's the first part. So then the secondary thing comes, there's a lot of different ways of doing gasket. And all the different ways of doing gasket achieves a different result. And you need to ask yourself the question, what result you want. And the result that we were looking for is two things. And the four most important one was we want to make sure we do gasket, yet keep stability and reliability primary concern. And I'll get back into that in a moment. And two is improve the sound signature. Hey, wow. Okay, improve the sound signature. And what is very nice about gasket is to improve sound signature, or improve sound profile and the sounds in general, is it isolates the module where you're like slamming your keys on from the case. It's like separating the two. So when you're slamming on the keyboard on the keys, there's a lot of vibrations happening, which transfer to the plate, it transfers to the PCB, and it goes outwards. If it's connected to the case in some way, it's going to transfer over that connection and go into the case. This is also why if you have a metal case, you're going to get a lot of ringing or higher frequencies bouncing off from a metal case from all those vibrations going that way. But if you use gaskets, you're separating the two more, you're limiting that transfer. And if you're using, in this case, silicone in between the gasket, it also absorbs a lot of the vibrations and prevents it from further transferring over to the case. So in that way, you can control sound a lot better and isolate it within. And that's also what we're trying to do with the gaskets when it comes to better sound. So to get that happening, plus getting the stability, we added quite a lot of gasket positions. We have like 4 on the top, I think, and we have also 4 on the bottom, and we have another one on the left and on the right. I mean, it's almost like we gasketed like all the way around the module. And if you do that, it takes away a lot of the flexibility, a lot of the flex or bouncy of the module. But it isolates the sound really, really well. And that's exactly what we wanted. We just want it to be a bit more stiff so you get the reliability. You don't want any kind of key flexing a lot, which can influence your key signal and positioning. And at the same time, you want that gasket for getting a better sound profile. Was that too much for the one question?
No, I think that was good. I think it's also an important question, because like, in a review, he also, because I think with gasket, there's this idea like, oh, Gasket is bouncy, right?
Yeah.
But how we kind of like designed it is more like Gasket is provides sound insulation or
Yes.
sound isolation of like making sure that there's a muted connection between like where you're typing on and the case. And it gives like a slightly softer touch to your typing, but we didn't make it for like the bouncy feeling.
Yeah. That's also why we don't have any kind of flex cuts also. We've actually tried doing a flex cut switch plate.
It didn't really make
It's
a big difference,
terrible.
right?
Yeah, no, it's just terrible because installing it was a PC plate also, and installing switches
It's only the
and
switches,
taking them out was terrible.
Yeah,
And
we're just also very afraid of the stability.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because usually when you do like flex cuts on a switch plate also on a traditional keyboard with the hot swap sockets themselves also clamp onto the pins of the switch. But with our switches, you just have two prongs sticking out that go through the PCB, but it's not like clamping or clicking or anything like that. It's just for positioning. And for the rest, it's basically, it relies on the switch plate to sit in this one position. And if you have any kind of like movement upwards or sidewards, it changes the signal. We're talking about, 0.01 type of differences can easily happen in those situations. And that's what we're also, reading from the switch.
Okay, so the last two questions. Is it still recommended for the ATC to stick with the stock cable? High quality aftermarket cable is fine. They're fine. Like we did try to make the electronics a bit more resilient to different USB cables. It's always kind of hard to put these in a spectrum because like there's so much difference in quality between USB cables and USB cable internals, but in general it should be more resilient.
Yeah. All right. And then I can say to Silva, Ghost ABS. I didn't need to read the other ones. Just Ghost ABS. Go for Ghost ABS. Ghost. Yeah.
Ghost, there you go. Pick the Ghost face.
Right. Okay, nice. Well, it was fun. We'll be back with a live stream in 2 weeks again. If you're still waiting for your ATHE, I hope it arrives soon for you.
Share pictures on Twitter and Discord.
Yes. There's a whole Discord, Wooting ATHE Discord channel. People sharing their experiences there as well. Welcome to join there as well. And then for US, it's going to ship out soon. Again, it's going to arrive at the warehouse soon, and then it's going to need some time to check in everything, and then we can start shipping. And what else?
Have you watched the iJoker review yet? I haven't watched it yet. I have seen his measurements. We have talked with him a bit, but I haven't watched the review yet. It's also a bit hard for us to watch because it's in Korean. But,
yeah, I went through the review, but I used the auto translate. But then you can pick up a couple of things. But I think when you look at performance, it comes out well. It just there's still a couple optimizations we need to make with the starting activation point. I think that's the main thing when it comes to performance. Okay, see everybody next round. And then again about maybe last thing about the white zinc case stuff. Also next week we're gonna have some type of conclusion. We're gonna start communicating a bit more on this. Okay.
Bye bye.
See you.
Bye.
Good night. I need to find the thing. Where is it? Here. Bye.